has their own currency. So that means Libya has the dinars, Nigeria has the naira, and the rest of the countries, they have their currency. So the price of the Libyan currency against other currency is what we call exchange rate. Do you get what exchange rate is here?
Yes.
So they say what? It's the price of one currency, example, the Libyan dinars, measured in terms of other currencies, like measured in terms of the dollar, in terms of the naira, in terms of the lira, in terms of the Dutch mark, in terms of any other currency. When you measure a currency, or when you measure a domestic currency in terms of other currencies, we call it exchange rate. Do we get exchange rate here?
Yeah.
So for example, the exchange rate of the Libyan dinars in terms of the US dollars might be 4 Libyan dinars what? $1. That means for $1 you have what? 4 Libyan dinars. Do we understand exchange rate here?
Yes.
So the rate of the dollar in terms of the dinars, or the rate of the dinars in terms of the dollar. Do we get exchange rate here? Okay. So there are two types of exchange rate systems. We have the fixed exchange rate system and the floating exchange rate system. What is the difference between the floating exchange rate system and the fixed exchange rate system? So under the fixed exchange rate system, the government intervenes in foreign exchange markets to maintain its exchange rate at a predetermined level. So for the fixed exchange rate, system, it's from the government of the country. So the Libyan fixed exchange rate is what the Libyan central bank and the Libyan government will determine. Do you understand? So that's why I say it's predetermined. That means the Libyan government, the Libyan central bank will sit together and decide on what the exchange rate should be. Do we get the point here? So fixed exchange rate is basically from the government. The government decides what the exchange rate will be. You know, maybe some time ago they were talking about revaluation of the Libyan dinars. The Libyan dinars before now was, I think, to the dollar was 2 points. The fixed exchange, I'm not talking about the floating. The fixed exchange was around 2, but now it becomes 4. Yes or no?
Yes.
So it becomes 4 because they decided to make it 4. And doing that course of action is what we call revaluation. What do I call it? Revaluation. That means you are reducing the value of the currency. So it was $1 to 2 dinars, but now it is $1 to 4. So the price of the dinars has fallen against the dollar. Do we understand that? So government decides on fixed exchange rates. It's basically from the government. So let's see what I said here. What is the advantages of having a fixed exchange rate? When the country uses a fixed exchange rate, what is the advantage? They say it reduces the uncertainty. It reduces uncertainties in the international trade. What is international trade? Trade between countries. Trade between what? Countries. International trade. And there's internal trade. The trade within a country. A trade within a country is internal. A trade between countries is international. Do you understand the difference here? They might ask you the example, the difference between international trade and internal trade. International trade is trade between different countries. Internal is trade within a country. Do we get that? So for the fixed exchange rate, one of the advantages is this. One of the advantages, it creates certainty. Firms, businesses that do international trade have exact figures they want to work on. Because what? The exchange rate is fixed. So whatever demand of the product, whatever the supply of the product, they still buy at the same rate. That's one of the advantages of the fixed exchange rate. Do you get the point here? They said it reduces uncertainties in the international trade. This allows firms, both domestic and foreign, to be certain about future cost and price. So they know that no matter what happens in the future, they can plan on it. The exchange rate is not going to change because it is the government that decides it. Do we get the point here? Demand or supply. Higher demand or lower demand. Higher supply or lower supply. The exchange rate is not going to change. That's why we call it what? Fixed exchange rate system. Government has decided and they've come up with a figure. So the figure, no matter what happens, no matter the circumstances, it does not change. Do we understand fixed exchange rates? Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay, so I said, thereby encouraging international trade and exchange. So if we are certain about our cost, we're certain about our price, we will be serene to carry out our trade. That's what it said, but it encourages international trade. So traders, buyers and sellers will be sure, will be certain about what their costs are, what their prices should be. So everyone will be able to plan ahead of time. Do we get it? So let's look at the graph here. We say we have the price of Libyan dinars per dollar and the quantity. So because it is a fixed exchange rate, it has 4. We said the exchange rate for Libyan dinar is 4, right? So 4 to $1, so it is at 4 here. That's the price of the dinar against the dollar at 4. It is fixed. No matter what the supply is, no matter what the demand is, it's always at a fixed rate. So this is what we call fixed rate system. So the prices are not going to change, either because of quantity demanded or quantity supply. Do we understand? So that's why we say in quantity here, whatever it is, demand or supply, it stays. The exchange rate stays. Do we understand the exchange rate here? So what are the problems about fixed exchange rates? So the first one, that's what we call criticism. Criticism of fixed exchange rates. So in the exams my ask you, what are the setbacks? What are the consequences? The negative consequences of a fixed exchange rate. It has an advantage. The advantage is what? Traders, international trade is certain. So we know what we want to spend on. We know what we want to buy. The prices are certain. The costs are certain. So we can plan and be serene in whatever activity we want to do. But what are the problems we face when there's a fixed exchange rate in the country? Look at it. The first one. It reduces the country's ability to use monetary policy changes in order to affect the economy, especially during recession. So, one of the problems we have when there's a fixed exchange rate is that if the country is in recession, we know what recession is, right? A downward slope in economic activity. So, if there's an economic decline in the country, we cannot use monetary policy to solve the problem. What are monetary policies? The use of interest rates, the use of money supply, the use of exchange rate to solve economic problem. So because we have a fixed exchange rate here, we can't use monetary policy to solve a problem in the economy. Do you get the point here?
Yeah. Yes.
A fixed exchange rate means no matter what happens, fall in demand, fall in supply, increase in demand, increase in supply, we won't be able to use a monetary policy to change any of these things. Do you get the point? I'm going to explain again. Recession means there's a decline in economic activity. Based on this graph, we can have a recession. We can use this graph to illustrate recession. To illustrate recession with this graph, it means our supply from X will fall leftward. Our supply will move what? Leftward. So a shift in supply leftward means that there's a decline in supply, which might be as a result of recession. And what happens to demand? Demand also moves leftward. So this is recession, or a decline in economic activity. But if there's a decline in economic activity, because our country has initiated a fixed exchange rate, we won't be able to use what? Monetary policy to solve this problem. So we won't be able to use monetary policy to solve low aggregate demand. We won't be able to use monetary policy to solve low supply because we have a fixed exchange rate. Do we understand here? So one of the problems of using a fixed exchange rate is that whenever there is a problem in the economy, we can't use monetary policy to solve the problem. We can use fiscal policy, but we won't be able to use what? Monetary policy to solve the problem. Because in the fixed exchange rate, we talk about money. We are trying to place money we're trying to place money on a constant base. So it is not easy for us to change, either to increase it or to decrease it. So that was why it took a long period of time before the dinars was able to be revaluated to fall. They talked about it for almost even a year or so before it became what it becomes now. Do we notice that? Do we notice that? Because before now the dinar was not 1 to 4. It was 1 to 2 point something or so. But now it is 4. So they talked about it and talked about it. Because they have to reach a compromise. But they couldn't solve that problem. The problem would have been easily solved if there was what? Monetary policy. But we can't use monetary policy to solve a problem of economic recession because we have a fixed exchange rate. Do we understand fixed exchange rate here?
Yeah.
Fixed exchange rate is determined by the government. And when there's a fixed exchange rate, it gives us ability to be certain about international trade. It boosts international trade. But the problem about fixed exchange rate is one, it does not allow us to use monetary policy to solve a problem. Example of that problem is recession. We won't be able to solve recession through using monetary policy. What is monetary policy? The use of interest rates, the use of money supply, the use of foreign exchange to manipulate or to control economic situation. Do we get it? So what's the second problem there? There's huge opportunity cost in using large amounts of foreign exchange reserves to maintain the fixed rates. In the fixed rate, okay, they said there's what? There's a huge opportunity cost. If we have to maintain our fixed exchange rate, that means we have to have a lot of foreign money, foreign currency in our reserve. So we need to keep a lot of foreign currencies in the reserves so that we can maintain what? Our exchange rate. So that it doesn't go down or goes up. So to maintain these foreign reserves, that means this foreign reserve, this amount of money we kept, we can use it for other things to benefit the economy. Do we get it here? Using our fixed exchange rate, it means we need a huge sum of money in terms of foreign currency in our foreign reserves. So when we have them in the reserves, that means we can't use those money there. We can't. So that is what? Opportunity cost. Because it is foregone alternative. So the foreign exchange reserves that we are maintaining so that we can balance our fixed exchange rate, we can use that reserve to do other things, to build schools, to invest on other things. But we can't because we need to maintain our foreign exchange so that our fixed exchange rate stays at this point. Do we get it? So the first problem of fixed exchange rate is that one, you won't be able to use monetary policy to solve a problem in the economy. And two, it is an opportunity cost. Because we have to keep a lot of money, we have to save a lot of foreign currencies that we're not going to spend in the reserves. When we have a lot of things to do in the society, when we have a lot of activities to carry on in the economy, we won't be able to do it because we need to maintain certain amount of figure in our foreign exchange, in our foreign reserves. Do we get it?
Yes, sir.
So, they said the fixed exchange rate, they said in the fixed exchange rate, there is revaluation of the exchange rate if it is rising against other currencies, and there is devaluation if the value falls against other currencies. So, if the dinar is falling against the dollars, it is what? Devaluation. And if the dinar is rising against the dollars, it is what? Revaluation. So what happens with Libya is what? Devaluation of the dinars. Do we get the point?
Yeah.
So there is a devaluation in our dinars because the dinars is falling against the dollars. Do we get it?
Yeah.
So in a fixed exchange rate, there are two situations. Revaluation and devaluation. Revaluation means what? There is a rise in the currency against other currencies. Devaluation means there is a fall in our currency against other currencies. Do we understand revaluation and devaluation?
Yeah.
In fixed exchange rate, there are two situations. Revaluation, devaluation. Revaluation means our currency is rising against other currencies. Devaluation means our currency is falling against other currencies. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Do you have any question about fixed exchange rate?
No.
Clear. So we go to the floating exchange rate. This is where we use the black market. This rate is floating. It does not stay, it's not stable, it's not constant. So what is the floating exchange rate? It is the rate, in this exchange rate system, the value of currency is determined by the market forces of the demand for the currency and the supply of the currency. So here, government does not decide in the floating exchange rate. It does not involve the government. It depends on what we demand for and what we are supplying. So in the floating exchange rate, it is about what? Demand for the currency, supply of the currency. Do you understand floating here? Floating means it's fluctuating, it does not stay. Do you understand floating?
Yeah.
So what happens with floating? Look at the graph here. We said it's about demand for, supply of. So when we have this graph, we say we have the price of dinars $2, the price of dinars per $1, and we have the quantity of dollars here. So if the demand for dollars increases, let's say a rightward shift in the quantity demanded of dollars from D1 to D2 will increase the price of dinars to 5.5. That's from P1 to P2. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yes.
I'm going to say that again. If there's an increase, we said the floating exchange rate is determined by the demand and supply of the currency. So with this graph, let's say this is the quantity of dollars. There will be demand and there will be supply. So if the dollar increases from D1, that's a rightward shift from D1 to D2 will increase the price of dollars against the dinars from 5.2 to what? 5.5. Let's assume the floating exchange rate is 5.2. So if we need more of dollars, what happens to the price? The price will fall. We rise, the price will fall against the dinars.
Yeah.
Because at this point, if our exchange rate changes from 5.2 to 5.5, it means our dinars is falling against the dollar. Do you get the point here? You know it is 5.2 to 5.5. You would think it's increasing. It's not increasing, it's falling. Because before now, a dollar is 5.2. But because of the increase in the quantity demanded of dollars, it has increased the price of the dollars to what? To 5.5. So here, it means that what the dinars has fallen against the dollar. Do we get it? Do we understand this? So the quantity demanded, a rightward shift from D1 to D2 will fall the exchange rate of the dollar, of the dinars against the dollars. So that means the dollar is what is appreciating against the dollar. The dollars is appreciating against the dinars. That means what? The dinars is what is depreciating against the dollar. Do we understand? So for floating exchange rate, whenever we demand more of a currency, the price of that currency rises against our own currency. Do you get it? When we need more of dinars, that means the dinars will rise against other currencies that needs the dinars. So when we need more of dollars, it means that the dollar rate will rise against the currency we use in searching for that dollars. Do we understand? So in floating exchange rate system, there is what we call appreciation. What is appreciation here? Appreciation has occurred as the dollar rate has rise against what? The dinars from 5.2 to 5.5. That is appreciation. Appreciation of the dollar. Then we have what? By contrast, there is depreciation. If the exchange rate is falling against other currencies. So here, the dinars are falling against what? The dollars. So when the dinars falls against the dollars, what does that mean? It means depreciation. Do we understand depreciation here? So in fixed exchange rate, we have revaluation and what? Devaluation. And in floating exchange rate, we have depreciation and appreciation. Do we understand the difference here?
Yeah.
In fixed exchange rate, when the dinar is rising against the dollars, we call it what? Revaluation. And when the dinar is falling against the dollars, we call it devaluation.
Yeah.
In the floating exchange rate, when the dinar is rising against the dollars, we call it appreciation. When the dinar is falling against the dollars, we call it depreciation. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So why do we have? So they said causes of exchange rate fluctuation. This can never happen in the fixed exchange rate because the fixed exchange rate is constant, it's stable, it's determined by the government. But when there is a change in exchange rate, it is because of what? Of floating exchange. Floating even means a change. Do we get the point here? So fixed exchange rate does not change except when the government and the central bank of that country sit down to decide and determine what the exchange rate will be. It is not determined by the demand and supply of the currency, unlike the floating exchange rate. The floating exchange rate changes at any point in time. When the demand is high, the floating exchange rate will rise. When the demand falls, or when the supply falls, the exchange rate will also change. Do we understand? So I bring examples of demand, I can also make examples of supply. When the supply falls or shifts leftward from S to S2, it might mean that the dinars will rise against dollars. It might come to 5.3, or let's say 5.1 or 5.0. If we don't need more dollars anymore, so if the supply of dollars shifts leftward, do you get it here? If the supply of dollars shifts leftward, it means the dinars will rise against the dollars.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of 5.2, it might come to what? 5.0. So this is what we call what? Appreciation or depreciation?
This appreciation.
Appreciation. Yeah, because the dinars has rise against the dollars.
Yeah.
When the prices rises here, it means the dinars has fallen against the dollars. It means $1 here will buy 5.2 before now, but $1 now will buy what? 5.5. So that means dollars has rise against dinars. That is appreciation for dollars. But at this point in time, when we need less of dollars, it means that supply will shift leftward. And when the supply shifts leftward, the prices of dinars will rise against the dollars.
Yeah.
That means prices will fall. That means a rise for an appreciation for the dinars. Don't look about the increase here. Look about the fall here regarding the dollars. Before now, the dollars was $1 will buy 5.5. Now $1 is going to buy 5.0. That means our dinars is rising.
Yes, sir, I got it.
Do we understand appreciation here? So we call this appreciation. So when the dinar rate falls here, it means appreciation of our dinars. But when the dinar rate high here, it means what? Appreciation of the dollar against the dinars. So the only situation we're going to have a fall I mean the only time our dinars will appreciate is when there's what? A leftward shift in supply of dollars.
Yeah.
That means we don't need more dollars. So because we don't need more dollars, the prices of dollars will what? Decrease or fall. Because we don't need dollars. But when we need more dollars, the value of dollars will what? Will increase. Do we understand? Okay. So that means when there is an exchange rate situation, it's only about the floating exchange rate. The fixed exchange rate, nothing happens to it. It stays. Either demand or supply. No demand, no supply, it stays.
Yeah.
Do we understand? So let's see what the causes are. One, changes in what? In the export. Changes in demand for export. What is export? Export means what? We are selling our product or service to other countries. That's export. Things we have in this country, we're selling it out of this country. That's export. So when there's what? A change in demand for export. A change in demand for export could be what? An increase in export or decrease in export. Do we get the point here? A change in demand for export could be what? An increase in demand for export or a decrease in demand for export. When there's an increase in demand for export, that means they need more of our what? Our currency. So our currency will what? Will appreciate. So an increase in the demand for a country's currency will appreciate the country's currency. Do you get it?
Yeah.
When what? When there is an increase in the demand for exports, that means our country's products are being sold more abroad. So that means those buying our product, we need more of our currency. So this will appreciate our what? Currency.
Yeah.
But if the demand for our product reduces or decreases, it will also reduce the value of our currency. Do you understand a change in demand for export here? So a change in demand for export, either increase or decrease, will either appreciate or depreciate our currency. Is it clear?
Yeah.
The second one, changes in demand for imports. Now, as a country, if we mostly do imports, that means we need other countries' currency. So this will what? Depreciate our own currency. When we buy more from outside than what we send to outside, than what we send out, that means our import is more than our export. Remember when we talk about import and export, it becomes what? A balance of payment deficit when our import is more than our export. So the same goes here. So when our import is more than our export, the value of our currency what? Falls. because we need more of other countries' currency. Do you get it? So there's going to be acquisition of our currency if there is a reduction in the imports of products from other countries. So when we don't import more, the value of our currency will appreciate. But when we import more, the value of our currency will depreciate. Do you understand the difference between export and import here? In export, when we send more of our products out of the country, they need more of our currency. That appreciates our currency. But when we buy more from abroad, that means we need more of their own currency. This will devalue or this will depreciate the value of our currency. Not the value, because the value is about fixed exchange rate. It only what? Depreciate the value of our own currency. Is it clear? The third one, prices and inflation. Prices of goods and services. Whenever there is what? Domestic inflation. That means the prices at which we sell our product here. If the prices at which we sell our product here increases, that means those abroad will not want to buy our product. That means our export will fall. Do you get what I'm saying here? If the price of our domestic product increases, it also affects those that want to buy our product abroad. It will be expensive for them to buy, so they won't buy. So if the price of our product, our local made product, or our domestic product is increasing, that means our export will reduce. Do you get it? So if, in other words, if the price of our product here is cheap, it will be more exports, because other countries will want to buy our product because it's cheap. The prices is falling. So we'll sell more of our product because the prices in our country are less. And what is the consequence of this? That means our value, the currency of our country will start appreciating because they need more of our exports. Do we get it? Prices and inflation. When there is inflation in the country, domestic inflation, it means the prices of goods and services locally will be expensive. This will reduce exports. We won't be able to sell our products abroad because it's expensive for them to buy. By contrast, if the price of our product falls, our products will be what? Cheaper for them to buy outside. That means our export will increase. And if our export increases, the value of our currency will what? Will appreciate. Is it clear?
Yeah.
The fourth one, foreign direct investment. What is a foreign direct investment? We're talking about globalization. We're talking about multinational companies. What is globalization? Globalization means what? The movement of people, the movement of capital, the movement of businesses from in different countries around the world. I'm here because there's globalization. If there's no globalization, I might not be teaching here. But globalization has allowed me to be here. Globalization has allowed us to do the Cambridge exams. This is what we call globalization. The movement of people around the world, the movement of culture around the world, the movement of capital around the world. Globalization. So when there's globalization, there will be what? Multinational companies. What are multinational companies? Companies that have their offices all over the world, in more than one country. This can only happen with what? Globalization. So when there's globalization in the economy, the foreign direct investment, that means companies from Russia can start their business here. So when they start their business here, what do they need to do? They need to change their Russian currency to the what? To the Libyan dinars. That means they need more of our what? Dinars. Because they need more of our dinars, what happens to our dinars? It appreciates against the Russian currency. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Due to globalization, foreign investments, you can invest in other countries. But when you go to other countries, what happens to your FDI? Your FDI will be inward. That means you need more of that country's currency. And whenever you need more of that country's currency, it appreciates your own currency. So a Russian firm here will come with their currency to buy what? The dinars here. So that means they need more of our dinars. So because they need more of our dinars will appreciate against their what? Their currency. Likewise, if we go there, we need more of their currency. That means their currency will appreciate against our currency in the floating exchange rate. Do we get it? Do we understand? And the last one is speculation. What is speculation? Speculation means different information about there's going to be increase or there's going to be reduction. So people use the opportunity of increasing in exchange rate to buy more, and they use the opportunity of increasing exchange or decreasing exchange rate to sell. So whenever they get information, speculation is not a news. It's not a true news. It's possible. It is 1/2. It's may and it might not. But because we feel, oh, the exchange rate is okay, like the dinars and dollars. Maybe I bought my dollars for 5 dinars for one, and I feel there's going to be an increase in it. So maybe the dinars is going to fall. Maybe the dollar is going to fall against the dinars to maybe 4 points. I would quickly want to sell. That is speculation. Do you understand speculation here? Or I buy more of dollars because I feel the dollar is going to rise against the dinars. So when we buy more or sell more because of news of increase or decrease is what we call speculation. Do you understand speculation here? I buy more dollars because I feel or I heard that the dinars is going to fall, the dollars is going to rise against the dinars. I sell all my dollars because I heard that what? The dinars is going to rise against the dollars. So that means the dollars will fall. So if I bought my dollars for 5 dinars, I want to sell it right now because maybe it's going to fall to 3. That means I'm going to lose out. So because of this news, I start selling, or because of this news, I start buying. That's what we call what? Speculation. Do we understand? Do you understand floating exchange rate? So floating exchange rate is based on what? Demand for our product and supply of our product. But for the fixed exchange rate, it's determined by the government of the country with the central bank.